And we come in with this alert, the stage now being set in Salt Lake City, Utah for the first and only vice presidential debate in the 2020 race. Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris will be facing off in the debate that's taking on increased importance during this election cycle, as you might imagine, as President Trump remains quarantined in the White House with COVID-19. The pandemic expected to be a big focus tonight, along with the economy. The Trump campaign says Pence will seize on Kamala Harris's support of far-left policies.
He is going to talk about and ask the tough questions on Kamala regarding why she was continues to be an original co-sponsor of the socialized medicine Bernie Sanders Medicare for All that would eliminate 180 million private health plans, and as well as still being an original co-sponsor of the Green New Deal.
And on the other side of the political aisle, the Biden campaign is suggesting Harris will go after Pence on the administration's early response to coronavirus.
Well, she's going to be on stage with Mike Pence, but the debate is going to be about the Trump administration's failures over the last 4 years. You know, nothing that happens in the debate tonight is going to change the fact that Donald Trump and Mike Pence lied about the coronavirus.
You're watching Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Melissa Francis, anchor and executive editor of The Story, Martha McCallum. And she's live from Salt Lake City ahead of tonight's debate. Executive director of Serve America PAC and Fox News contributor Marie Harf is here. And in the center virtual seat, former White House press secretary for George W. Bush and Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer. Great to see everybody today. This is a big day. I want to start in Salt Lake City. So, Martha, I'm coming straight to you. Some changes. We just got to see in some video the partitions. I noticed the moderator doesn't have a partition. Tell us about what we will see that's kind of different.
Well, this is debate style 2020 in the world of COVID, and there's constant changes. I mean, who would have imagined a debate environment where one of the biggest stories of the morning is that everyone tested and they've both tested negative. So the idea that perhaps this couldn't happen seems to have gone by the wayside. So that's good news this morning from Salt Lake. And you've got these plexiglass partitions, which were the subject of debate between the campaigns yesterday. There was a little bit of back and forth whether or not the Pence campaign did not want the plexiglass around their area. Now, as you can see, when you get a look at that stage, it is there. We don't know what the impact is going to be on the way that they interact from this plexiglass. We hope that it will be and feel sort of invisible on that stage, because you obviously want to get these folks interacting and looking at each other and responding to each other. But, you know, this is the moment that we're living in politically, Harris, and it changes hour by hour.
That is so true. Now, some of the news flow today is also changing when it comes to coronavirus. So when you talk about the physical cues that we are in 2020, this comes to mind as well. Ari, before I come to you, I want to hear from Dr. Anthony Fauci, because he's talking about some pretty daunting numbers. No doubt this will come up at the debate tonight. Let's watch.
The models tell us that if we do not do the kinds of things that we're talking about in the cold of the fall and the winter, we could have from 300,000 to 400,000 deaths. That would be just so tragic if that happens.
Ari, out of the gates, your thoughts on what the vice president needs to do? He heads up the task force on COVID-19, and what Dr. Fauci just said is jarring.
Look, Mike Pence's job tonight is simple and clear. 3 words: smoke them out. He has got to make the case, Harris, how liberal this ticket is. Because right now, this has all been a referendum on... Well, no, I'm going to get to that. But he has got to, you play offense first. You got to make the case about what's wrong with the other guy. This has been a referendum on Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is losing that referendum. The Trump-Pence team has got to make this a choice between the Biden-Harris ticket and the Trump-Pence ticket. And when it comes to the choice, he's got to smoke them out on how liberal they are on every position out there. And this is where, on packing the court, packing the Senate by creating fake new states, he has got to spell out why Harris won't answer those questions. And then a technique, when she won't answer, and the moderator lets her get away with not answering, Pence has to step back and sum up and say, America, the reason she won't answer that question is because she is going to be, and Biden's going to be, under the influence of AOC and Nancy Pelosi, and they're too weak to tell you they'll stand up to the liberals. That's what this race is about. You've got to play offense, because playing defense on the virus is vital, but it's not going to win the election. It's that bad for the administration now when it comes to corona. They've got to open up a new ideological front and play offense.
That is that's surprising, because you know they're going to hit it hard on coronavirus tonight.
Yeah.
On the offense, I will say this, Marie, what Ari's talking about might be a little bit easier to do with Kamala Harris. When you look at her voting record, when you look at her recent track record in the state of California, which is one of the most liberal in the nation in terms of its policies. So what does she need to do on that stage if Pence goes on the offense, as Ari is suggesting, with smoke them out on those liberal policies?
Well, Donald Trump has tried that strategy with the Biden campaign for the last few months, trying to say they will just be tools of the left. And let me tell you, the left wishes that were the case in my party. But what Kamala Harris will have to do tonight is make very clear that Joe Biden is the president, the presidential nominee, and he would be the president. He does not support Medicare for all, for example. So whatever Kamala Harris's own feelings are, positions are, she's the number two here. And so she will say something, I imagine, like, Joe Biden doesn't support Medicare for all, but he supports more Americans having health care. And independent experts have said under his proposed fixes to Obamacare, more Americans would. Mike Pence, your administration is in court today trying to strip those protections away with no plan to replace it. And so I think she will be very clear that the Trump administration has tried to make the Biden-Harris ticket look very liberal, but they haven't had a lot of success yet because Joe Biden himself is actually quite moderate. And the policies he supports don't stand up to that sort of liberal AOC fear-mongering that Trump has tried to do.
As I go to Melissa, I'm going to push back on that just a little bit, Marie, or maybe a lot. I think their policies are on tonight. You know why? Because Kamala Harris is standing next to a guy who's going to be 78 years old next year. And potentially, if he were to win, the oldest president in office. The current president has COVID-19 and again, has no events on his schedule today. He's trying to recover and get well. Of course, we all wish him the best. Mike Pence and Kamala Harris have the focus, the spotlight on them, and their records do count, or not, Melissa?
No, I think they very much count. I think that, to Marie's point, Joe Biden has had every position on every issue. He has stood at the debates and in other forums and, you know, said he will support Medicare for all. No, he wouldn't. He didn't mean that. Kamala Harris has stated very plainly that you want to talk about getting rid of people's insurance, that she would immediately want to eliminate all private health care. She has said that. When politicians say something and then they go back on it and then they say something different again, I think you can't trust the words that are coming out of their mouth. So it is a very fair thing to think that Joe Biden doesn't necessarily stand for anything. Maybe he's pretending to be moderate today. Maybe he'll pretend to be super liberal tomorrow. Maybe he doesn't really care about any of these things or have positions. He's just out there to be the president, and you have no idea who's going to be pulling the strings behind him. So I think that it is very much about these two candidates that are out there tonight. As you said, I think as far as Mike Pence is concerned, I think Ari's advice is fantastic. I do think that he should go on offense. I think that he is one of the most disciplined politicians that I've seen, Mike Pence. He's always able to stay on message, to not get pushed, and to stay very calm. And we'll see a lot of that tonight. And I do expect Kamala Harris to put in a great performance as well. She is a prosecutor. She's very good in this forum. I think it's going to be great viewing.
Hey, Harris.
All right, Martha, I'm going to come back to you.
Dr. Fauci
oh, no, go ahead, Ari.
Real quickly on Dr. Fauci. And I'm a tremendous admirer of him. I worked with him during the anthrax attacks in 2001, have deep respect for him. But about a month ago, when corona cases were surging up to about 60,000 a day, he said at the time, I wouldn't be surprised if we hit 100,000 a day. Since then, it's dropped down to 30,000 a day. He's a wonderful man. He's not always right.
All right. You know, one thing that just to finish up, Ari, in that interview with Dr. Fauci, he says that a lot of people aren't going to listen to him because of the recent past and some opinions that they may have of him. But he was just hoping that people might pay attention to him. And I quote him, For at least 6 weeks, just do what he says. All right. Martha, I promised I wanted to come to you, so let's do that quickly just on the setup for tonight. What do you think? Because we didn't get a list of topics, but what do you think it could look like in terms of what we see tonight?
I mean, the pace is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be broken down into 10 9-minute segments, or 9 10-minute segments, I should say. You know, we'll see if it's a little more organized in terms of going from topic to topic during the course of this evening. I think one of the goals for both of them is to just appear grounded, confident, presidential, even though they're running as vice presidential candidates. I think those are the things that people thought was a little bit missing in some of the attacks and some of the language that Joe Biden used last time around as well, that we hope will kind of be missing tonight. I also would look for a possibility for humor. Some of the great moments that we all remember from debates in the past were moments that were humorous, and we had Zippo of that last time around. And I think people do respond to that. So if either one of them can sort of nail that moment tonight, I think that will serve them well.